We like know how to monetize it and capitalize on it better than anyone else. Like literally, if you have a phone and the internet, like you can literally turn yourself into anything.
Hey guys, it's Matt Haycox here, and I have got a slightly different guest to usual for the show, and also a slightly different theme, but one that we're going to be doing a lot more of over the coming weeks. Now, just to put this into context, we are filming on the 17th of February today, isn't it? We're filming on the 17th of February, and I am literally just about to launch my first product, which is called Earn While You Learn. And basically, it's an online course, video tutorial course, specifically aimed at students who would like to find or flourish their entrepreneurial streak whilst at uni, and use it as a chance, whether that's to do, make an extra £50 a month or an extra £5,000 a month. Use it as the way for them to find their passion, find their focus, and monetize it in some way, shape, or form. So, as part of launching that, what I've wanted to do is find a batch of guests who are all successful entrepreneurs who specifically started their businesses at uni. And today I've got the first one. I've got Makaela Richardson, who has a business called Free the Fresher.
Yeah.
Free the Fresher, which, well, she'll tell us more about it, but to do with packs and free goodies and stuff for freshers. But she started the business 4 years ago whilst at uni, which she dropped out of actually, which if you follow my course isn't specifically something I advocate for, but we will chastise her for that later. But she dropped out of uni, turned over £50,000 in the first year, and now 4 years on has just hit a £2 million turnover. So obviously fantastically successful. And what I want to do is talk to her and I guess pick your brains on what's worked for you, and so my audience is always small businesses, young entrepreneurs, people who want to start a business or grow a business. And what we always like to do is get actionable takeaways from the end of it. There's no specific theme other than when you finish watching or listening to one of my interviews or shows. I like there to be something that the audience can take away with. So I'm sure you've got plenty to offer.
For sure.
So yeah, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. This is so exciting. No. I mean, there's levels to it, and I think you're there, and I'm like maybe here. So I run a company called Free the Fresher. It's a subscription service for university students. So they pay us like a small nominal fee a month, and then they get discounts to loads of brands across the UK, and discounts on everything we provide. But our main seller is our Freshers Pack. So if you're a member with us, you just pay £50 and get everything you need for uni. So that's like from your bedding to your university supplies, even like kitchen stuff, everything. And like our main seller in that is also the hangover kit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's the main reason why people buy it. But yeah, it's a really good deal.
There's a business in itself there.
Yeah.
Tell us, were you entrepreneurial as a kid? Did you always want to go into business? Because you were doing a law degree, right?
Yeah, I was doing a law degree. I can't say I was always like very entrepreneurial, but I was always a very sure of myself and always like a hard worker. Like I'm from Bermuda, and from the time I was like, I'd say 12, I was like working in my aunt's hotel. Like I've just always had like a really good work ethic about me. But originally I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I thought that was my plan. That was my trajectory. As my parents had we were all focused on.
When did you come to England?
So I came to England when I was 14 to go to boarding school, because back then when I was sporty and healthy and athletic, I went to this school called Millfield, which is like really good for sports. Yeah, absolutely loved it. Created a whole life out here for myself, and then ended up staying in England like during A-levels and university. So after my A-levels, I was like, okay, I'm going to study law. And my parents, I don't like to say they're strict because they are quite loving, but they did kind of have a trajectory of like, this is what you should do. Like what most parents do, like this is the path you should go on. So I originally started to study law and I absolutely hated it. I was like, this is not for me. And then on my own account, I was like, no, I dropped out. And then they didn't like that. They were really upset. They were like, okay, if you're like, grown enough to make these grown decisions, you're going to have to figure it out. And they completely cut me off. They're like, if you want to do something, it's going to have to be, And
at the point you dropped out, you hadn't started the business yet?
No, I had not started the business yet. All I knew was that I didn't want to do law. And at the time I wanted to do like a gap year, but like my traditional Caribbean parents are like, no, that just means you're not going to like go back to school. So I was like, I don't really know what I was going to do, so I'll just study business because it's, like quite universal, I thought. And then moved to London, absolutely no money, and like started my course, and then Yeah.
I mean, I think what you say about your parents, I think it's reasonably typical of people from that generation. I mean, and I'm a bit older than you, just a little. But my parents were very much the same. I think they came from a generation where further education was the only way to it was the only way to guarantee, for want of a better word, or certainly to give you a good chance of getting a decent job.
For sure.
I mean, that was the generation where CVs meant everything, and if you didn't have that formal education, then you had no chance whatsoever of getting meaningful employment.
Yeah, and to their credit, it wasn't, they weren't like, it wasn't like aggressive. They weren't mad. They were just, that's the way, like you said, they've been brought up. That's what they wanted for me. They've sent me out here in school. They were like, you're gonna be a lawyer. We spent all this money on your education. Like, you have to do it. So I don't really I sympathize. I completely understand what they wanted for me, but that just wasn't my path. And I knew that, and I was very sure of myself with that. So I was just kind of really ready to roll the dice with whatever I wanted to do. But they were mad. They were really mad at the time. And then, so initially when I moved to London, I was flat broke. I don't have the words for how much they didn't help me. I went on student finance and, because they didn't fill out the criteria, they gave me the lowest maintenance grant, which just about covered my rent. So I literally started university just with nothing, nothing in my pocket. So yeah, so...
Well, listen, I've got to tell you as a quick aside, if you think your parents were pissed that you dropped out of uni, imagine how pissed my parents were when I dropped out of uni to start a strip club.
No. I mean, there's levels to it, and I think you're there, and I'm maybe here. But happy days now. Exactly. I don't regret it at all. And had I not struggled so much, I wouldn't have even came up with the idea because this was a service that I needed. I had no money and I needed to get everything.
And is that where the idea came from? Because it was a product you wanted?
It's literally exactly where the idea came from. I had 50 pounds left in my bank account, and I still needed to get my duvets. I still needed to get stuff for my kitchen. I still needed, my student finance literally went on rent, and I wasn't working at the time. I literally had 50 pounds to get everything I wanted. So I was literally looking for services like the one I'm now providing, and I couldn't find it. I could not find it anywhere. I was there was loads of different student discount places, but I was I don't even have money to for anything to be discounted. So yeah, that's literally where it came from, the struggle of it. And then when I started my company, I didn't even tell them about it because they were it would have just been the same rhetoric, just focus on school. What are you doing now? And it was a really weird time. When I dropped out of law school, I dyed my hair pink, got my first tattoo, got my nose pierced. So they were just no
wonder they disowned you.
Yeah, they were just what is happened? And then I was I'm moving to the city, and they're Makaela.
Your education was the least of their worries.
Right? What is going on? So it all worked out.
But for someone, knowing what you now know, would you have still advocated to someone in your position to have left uni, or would you have, looking back, think it was more sensible to try and start a business at the same time?
That's a really difficult question, because it starting a business, it takes such a particular personality. It takes such a particular fire that not a lot of people have, and it takes such a work ethic and this constant dedication. Because when I started my company, there were just so many different points where it was you're not going to make, this isn't going to work. I had no idea how to start a business. I had no idea really how to do anything. So it's a really hard question, because some people have the energy and the capacity to kind of really overcome some things. But it's this really big kind of entrepreneurial culture now where it's be your own boss. And, it's really glamorized a lot. Whereas you can't.
It's glamorized to the point of complete unrealism.
Yeah, it's a complete unrealistic. Most of the days, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I've literally just gone through a situation where it's people closest to me that have completely disrespected my trust and things of that nature. It's so many different uphills that you have to go through that not a lot of people can weather. And sometimes it does make sense to just stay in uni, especially if you don't know what you're going to do.
When you were starting, how did you find your feet? I mean, did you have a mentor?
No, I was completely on my own. Thankfully, the person who I was dating at the time was really my support system, because I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really have my parents to lean on it. There was no one, none of my friends was hey guys, I'm trying to start a bit. There was no one I could really talk to about it. So it was just really me just trying to figure everything out.
So he was a support system. He helped you with everything you needed, and now you're killing on $2 million a year. You fucked him off, right?
No, we're not together anymore. But it didn't exactly work out that way. But no, he was really supportive. But it was just really hard sacrifices that I had to make that a lot of people wouldn't make. When I was in university, I was like, okay, I'm dedicated to starting this business. So I part-time worked as like a bartender, and then I was broke at the time, and all the money I made from bartending just went straight to my website. You know, it's like me sacrificing, like going out, sometimes eating at the time for my business. And then obviously when I launched my website, no one knew who I was. Like literally I was like, oh, this is such a great idea. Like everyone's gonna know it. Like I didn't market it. Like no one knew who I was. So I literally had to decide. I was like, okay, if I want to make this business work, I went back home to Bermuda. I left uni and I worked 3 jobs. So I didn't have a life for almost like 6 months.
You were back in Bermuda building the UK business?
Yeah, literally. I launched it literally in April 2016. No traction. I spent all my money like in the website, was getting no traction, nothing. Literally went to Bermuda and like worked 3 jobs. So I was doing like HR job in a hotel from 9 till 5. And then I would get off like at 5-ish, and then I would start waitressing from 5:30 till 1 a.m. And then my one day off, I was babysitting. And then every bit of money I was making, I was just like sinking into marketing. And like not a lot of people are willing to like do that, you know, like sacrifice 6 months of like not going out. You know what I mean? So.
And did you have did you have a business plan in place at that point, or you're very much just? No,
I didn't. I was just winging it. I remember after my first year, my first deliveries. It was actually moms, like mom blogs were like, gave me like my first bit of exposure really. Cause it was actually like parents buying my packs for their kids, because like students, they don't really think about like buying what they need for uni until they're at that time. Yep. Whereas I was doing loads of like pre-order advertising. So it was their parents like, oh, my kid might be able to use this. And then different mom blogs were like, would talk about it and be like, oh, you should get your kids in that. So that was like my first traction, I'd say.
I think as well, what I just want to repeat on what you were saying a minute ago, that you know you worked your ass off for 6 months and you worked 3 jobs and put all that money into the business, and that's something that most people aren't prepared to do. Yeah. I think what's also important to know from that as well, that 6 months in terms of setting up a business, it's still nothing anyway.
It's literally absolutely nothing.
You're completely right in what you say, that most people aren't prepared to put that 6 months in. But I mean, if you only had to do 6 months, you're so fucking lucky, because you know you need to go into it with the mentality of having to do it for 6 years, for exactly 16 years.
And a lot of people don't get that lucky. Like I've been like really super fortunate in the sense that, you know, my business kind of did, you know, it was a year. It was like, I thought of my idea, and then a year later I saw a bit of profit from it. And like a lot of people don't get that lucky, and it's like a constant struggle. And even though I was, you know, my first year I did make profit, it was still like, it was just a consistent, the only way I can explain it, it's like you just learn how to swim, and then you're like dunked in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, just constantly like just, you know, like pedaling. It's like constantly difficult. It's really, really hard. It takes like such a positive, like go-getter attitude to just like constantly maintain it. And because it's like the entrepreneurial kind of life, it's just glamorized so much. Like I think that part's just completely overlooked.
I mean, it's glamorized to the point that that entrepreneurs don't even particularly talk or show about business anymore. It's just, you know, Instagram, #entrepreneur, here's a picture of a Lamborghini.
Yeah, exactly. It's so unrealistic, and it's really hard. But I think if you have the personality for it and the kind of work ethic behind it, then the world's really your oyster. Because like now, like more than any time in the world, like the amount of access to information, like I was 18 when I came up with my idea, you know, and was able to turn it into like a successful company off of Google, off of me being like, how do I do this? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So if you have the attitude to just really go for it, then the world's your oyster. But not a lot of people really understand what it actually takes, you know? And it's like, you know, it's just so many ups, so many downs, and it's just so much stuff that people don't see.
So talk to us about some of the downs. What's been the top 2 or 3, you know, toughest moments?
I can name the top 3. The first big one was my first. Okay, so I obviously buy all my stuff in bulk, and I import it from like Hong Kong, China, Vietnam, different places. And they have, when you order stuff like overseas, there's like a lead time, and most times it's like 30 to 45 days. But my duvets and my pillows, they have the longest lead time, which is like 70 days, and I get them compression packed so they can fit in my packs. And so me thinking I'm like smart, I was like, okay, those have the longest lead times, let me order those first. So I ordered my second year, I ordered all that stuff first, and then because they were sitting in the warehouse the longest, by the time it came ready for packaging, there was air in the compression. So
they didn't fit in.
Yeah, so like they weren't fitting. So I literally had, it was about like 30,000 duvets that did not fit in the box. I had delivery like scheduled for like 3 weeks. You know, I literally just remember like going in my bathroom in my shower, just like crying. I was like, I don't know what to do. I didn't like, obviously I did start out like worked out packaging and spend a fortune on bigger boxes. But, you know, even in situations where I'm like, okay, I'm being smart, I'm like pre-planning, like you just cannot predict that stuff. That was one. My second one, I'd say, was my first kind of round of like investing. So when I got like my first bit of press, obviously I was getting like different traction from different investors, but I just was not prepared for like what that even entailed.
How to deal with it.
How to even deal with it, like the etiquette of it, like, you know, like it's such like they really just comb through your business. I was like being picked apart of like everything, like how are you doing this? How are you like, you know, and I was still just winging it when I started. So when someone's like trying to tell you like, so what's your 5-year plan? What's like your, all this other stuff? I just was so...
How did you go out looking for investors? When did you know it was time that you needed investment, and where did you go looking for them?
That was a tricky one because my first year of business, when I made my profit, obviously like did my tax and everything, I think I had left like 30 grand to myself. And when I was like 18, that was a lot of money to me. I was like, you know, and
party like a fresher.
No, so stupidly I like spent it and then like paid off my student finance. And then I was like, wait, that was stupid because now I need that money to invest back in my business. So but luckily, because I was getting like quite a bit of press, I got like people actually like coming to me and like asking for the opportunity to actually invest in me. So I got quite lucky with that one. But that was just kind of like startup funding, like series, like when you do Series A and like that whole route, that's like a completely different journey. But I was quite lucky. I had investors come to me, but there's like so many different ways you can go about it. And then because when my business started, I was like doing more press and like doing quite more talks and stuff. I would literally have like people come up to me after talks like, hey, can we have like a meeting? I'd like love to do business with you. So
talk to me about press and marketing on a budget. You know, when you started, you know, obviously you didn't have a plan, didn't have any money.
Yeah.
Other than the mum blogs, how did you go out there and get awareness?
That's a really, really good question. So back when I started, obviously like Facebook and like the kind of social media marketing, it's like so much more, what's the word? Like everyone's doing it nowadays. Whereas back, I would say like five years ago. Saturated, that's the word. Like 5 years ago, like I was doing like Facebook dark posts and doing like really, really, really educated, because I didn't have a lot of money, on like the correct ways to like do social media marketing. But it was just so many different ways. Like my main thing was like competitions and then getting the data packs from competition and then remarketing it. I did like a lot of Facebook dark posts. If you're really, really smart, you can kind of do the whole social media advertising, but I wouldn't really recommend that unless you like really know specifically what you're doing. But it depends completely on like your demographic as well.
I think for me, you know, it depends obviously on your demographic, but also at what stage your business is in. I think, for me, one of the biggest mistakes, new start businesses do is, they'll use advertising strategies, which may be valid strategies for a medium to late stage business. But, when you're trying to get your first 100 grand worth of turnover, it's a completely different method of marketing, than how you would scale from 100 grand to 1 million and then from 1 million plus.
No, for sure. That's a real thing. But, luckily, my demographic is the Generation Z. So, everyone's online. So if you could kind of master a really good way of like, obviously at the time, like I wouldn't suggest like email marketing anymore, but like turning your data over into like some type of, like when you have people's like email address and personal information, like finding a way to like really capitalize and monetize on that.
I would imagine with your business as well, it's something where the word of mouth is fantastic. All the skint students are telling each other.
Like that was my main thing, because after my first year, like, and after mom blogs started picking up, like moms were telling other moms, you know, like, so even they had like a kid who was already in university and a younger kid, they're like, okay, we're going to make sure to sign them up. So that was a really big thing for me.
Do you have to be a student to buy your thing? Or
yeah.
That's one of the rules?
Yeah, that's one of the main rules. Maybe like one day, but no, it's all geared towards students.
And what's the growth plans?
Growth plans? Well, hopefully within like the next 3 years, kind of like branch out into Europe.
How many students have you got signed up at the moment?
Well, altogether, like my entire database is like around 750,000. But that's over the course of like 5 years. But like each year,
as in what, over the last 5 years, you've had 750,000 people on?
Yeah, but like each year it's like 60 to 80,000 students.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. But I mean, I'm sure you've thought of it anyway, but if you haven't, my top tip is you need to have something for non-students, or you know, let's say mid-20s type people, because you've got those 750,000 people, those 60 to 80,000 people who are going to drop off each year, who already know and love your stuff anyway. Yeah. So like they're going to be a super easy transition to move them onto.
Completely. Like definitely.
Send me my royalty check.
No, for sure. No, I'm definitely looking to kind of like branch out to things like that. But what I'm mainly focused on is like just providing more services for like the students that I do have already. But yeah, no, for sure.
Homework writing services.
No, that would be good. That'd actually be so good.
So tell me, out of your experience of being a student, I mean, there's something like 4 million students in the UK. How many? What's the percentage, do you think, of people who would actually like to find an entrepreneurial street compared to ones who just, you know, work in the local bar?
I think it's actually quite a lot, really. I would say, honestly, probably like around 20%. I'd say are like really interested in just, you know, kind of making their own way and doing their own thing. But the advice I would give to students, you know, in university trying to start the business, I would say definitely keep it up. Like try and find a way to maintain both. You know, it doesn't. If you're trying to start a business, you don't have to drop out and do it. Like you can find a really comfortable balance of like studying and still actually pursuing what you want to do. But it would just take some kind of sacrifice on your end in terms of like a social life.
Well, that was one of the first things that we talk about in my Earn While You Learn course, which is really to kind of work out how much time you've got to commit to it, and how much money you would ultimately like to try and make. Because like I said, everyone's got their own their own aspirations, and this isn't about necessarily saying I want to take over the world, I want to create the next Facebook or whatever. You know, it's if what you need is another £500 a month, you know, as beer money or to top up your rent. But you know, I guess be self-aware in terms of, you know, obviously not just your skill sets and how you're going to monetize those, but how much time you actually do want to commit to this. And you know, as we say, there is no right answer. It's very much what suits you. Yeah,
and to add to that, like time management is such a big thing. Like, you know, people say, oh, you know, I don't have a lot of time, I'm really busy. But if you actually kind of broke down the time you actually spend in the day, you know, whether it's like watching Netflix or on Instagram, you know, if you were really serious about actually doing something, if you just really worked on your time management, you'd be surprised what, you know, if you sub some things out, like what you can actually get done.
That is actually funny enough why I ended up dropping out of uni myself, so I could go and start a business, because at the time all my mates who went to uni, they were doing, you know, 8 hours a week of lectures and, you know, one book a month that they had to read at best, you know. And I thought, well, if that is the framework of my course, and I'm going to have plenty of time that I can that I can concentrate on my business. I went there, I must have had the only course that was about 50 hours a week of lectures, you know, 7 books like this to read. I was like, it's just not practical or possible to do it. But I mean, I think, you know, for so many students, they've got so much time that they can, you know, go on the piss or, you know, or use the PlayStation, etc. That you know, if you can convert some of that time, you know, whether it's 1 hour, you know, 1 hour a day, 5 hours a week, to even find the origins of what your business is going to be, or to you know, to skill up in some way, shape or form as well. Because again, one of the things I always talk about, you know, whether it's to uni people or younger still, is all the other skill sets that you don't come away from uni with, you know, how to ultimately how to monetize your skill. You know, you might learn skills while you're at uni, but how do you monetize them? How do you network? How do you sell? You know, all the other things that even if you're not ready to start the business yet, you can be investing in yourself during that time.
Completely. And it's the best time when you're like, 18, 19, in your 20s, you know, that's when we're going to have the most energy. That's when we have the capacity to be up till 6, 7 a.m. and like, you know, not sleep for that long, you know, no responsibilities, no debts, no bills, just, you know, that's just the optimal time if you are actually like really committed to starting your business.
Yeah. Have you got any regrets?
Regrets? Yeah. Like when I started my business, I was obviously like, I'm still young now, but I was very young at the time. So I was like very naive when it came to, sort of like the people that I had in my life, because I was on like sort of like a different level, I'd say. So I've been very naive with like my generosity and some of the relationships I've had. But for the most part, I'm really, really, really happy with the decision I made. And, you know.
When you say you've been misplaced generosity in relationships, what you mean? What, giving people jobs, money?
Yeah, like jobs, money, opportunities, like, you know, because I just have like such a go-getter attitude. I just want to help everyone. I just want to, you know, be as good as I can, but it's just some people that you just shouldn't. And, you know, at the time I was like so young and I came into like money, and these are just things that you're not really taught, if that makes sense.
How's it affected your decisions now? Because I mean, it's something that, you know, I was going to say suffer from. Don't think suffer is the right word, but, you know, it's something that I find regularly in my life. I you know, back then and still now, that, you know, you misplace trust or you misplace generosity. But I also don't think it changes my mentality going forward, because I think, you know, if you start clamming up and being bitter and overthinking it, you know, you miss out on so many opportunities yourself.
For sure. Like I completely agree with that. Like I've been through so many, even recently, like big situations where it's like really made me assess. I was like, I could either be really bitter from this or like learn from it. But that's something that you're not really taught. Like when I was young, I was like 19. I was able to like afford like my own like 2-bedroom apartment in London. Like I was making really good money. So, you know, I wasn't really educated on how to really go about that and how to sort of read people and understand people like that. So, you know, it's been a learning curve, but I wouldn't say it changed me. If anything, it's just like made me grow and like made me stronger. And
do you have any mentors now?
Yeah, no, I have quite a few. Like luckily, when I was in my second year of business, I won. I came third in like the startup competition for EY.
Say you won. Sounds good. We'll edit this later.
We'll edit it.
Makaela won.
Yeah. And but no, because it was a startup competition for like businesses in university, so people who started at business university, and the prize was like £5,000. But my business was so far ahead of everyone else who was in the competition. They were like, we can't give you the money. It's not going to make a difference. So we'd give you like a mentorship, and it was a really cool people at like EY, a really big reinsurance company, and like the people I've met through them, like,
well, I'm sure that's worth 100 times.
It's been invaluable. It's been so invaluable. Like I would literally, they'll like go to these like dinners where it's like just like multi-millionaire people who have just like really done incredible things, and I was just like at 19 with these people. I was just like, this is insane. So
I mean, one of the questions I get regularly asked is, you know, if I could go back now, you know, what would I do different? And the answer that I invariably give is find mentors earlier in life. You know?
For sure.
I mean, look, you know, we talk about the glamorization of entrepreneurialism now, and I think, you know, for all my criticisms of that, I think some of the things it does do is highlight, you know, mentorship and some of these other things. And you know, these were something I never really had any idea existed, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago. I mean, I guess it exists insofar as I'd have had informal relationships with people, but you know, there was never really the concept of I need a mentor. In a way, it was almost scoffed at, because it was like an admission of inadequacy, if you like. But yeah, I mean, if I could have done something differently, it would be to go back and get mentors in different areas, you know, much earlier in life, and just absorb that knowledge.
And to add on to that, like I don't realize people understand, like it can be so lonely, like running your own business, like, you know, taking charge of your own life, doing something that's like not really on the conventional path. It can be so lonely. So there's literally nothing better than like being surrounded by people who've been through it, who's gone through it, who can tell you like, it's okay, like it gets better. This is just like a part of it. There's nothing that beats that.
So one of the things I'm always trying to champion as well, when I talk to my audience, is I guess the asset of being young, as opposed to, I think if we look back to previous generations, youth was probably always something that was more scoffed at, if you like. You've not got enough experience. You're too young to be able to do this. But I think in today's world, youthfulness is such an asset. I mean, yeah. I don't know how you found that during your experiences.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I said before, obviously when you're younger, you have more the energy and like the stamina to actually like kind of do the hard nights and, tough times. But then also like more than any time in history, really, like the youth has like the most access to technology, and we like know how to monetize it and capitalize on it better than anyone else. Like literally, if you have a phone and the internet, like you can literally turn yourself into anything. Do you know what I mean? It's 100%. Like, we just, if you honestly have the energy for it and like just the will to actually really figure out and like research and do everything that you need to do, you can make anything happen. And that's recently this generation. You see that with the rise of like influencers and, social media stars and things like that. It's just all at our fingertips now. So
you were telling us earlier about some of the kind of the worst moments or scariest moments during the business. Tell me 2 or 3 of your best moments, your most exciting wins.
Yeah. Okay. So the last worst moment, because I know we just did 2, but the last worst moment was when I had like people really, really close to me invade my privacy and essentially like rob me. And these are people that I like trusted and like absolutely love. And that was something that I could not even even predict happening. And then there's loads of different like effects from that, but I came out of it better. But some of the best times, I'd say I'd be when I first started, and then I went back to Bermuda to work. I must have spent like $3,000 on advertising, and like nothing was really happening. I was like, does this make sense? I'm like spending all my money. And then it was just one campaign, like out of all it was like so many different things I was doing, and it just takes like really one to work. And I remember in the space of like 48 hours, I went from like, okay, this isn't gonna work. I'm just gonna have to tell my parents I failed again, and this is all for nothing, to literally seeing, I think it was like about like 4,000 people who had signed up, and I needed 2,000 to break even. And that happened like within the space of 48 hours. I was like, it's just like little miracles like that. And
do you think proving yourself to your parents was always a big driver for you?
It was a big driver, because the position that I had put myself in with my parents, like failure wasn't really an option, because I'd already dropped out of uni. I'd already
been cut off.
Yeah, I've already been cut off, so we couldn't get any lower. So no, it was more kind of like for myself, because I was like, I know I did this for a reason. I know I didn't want to do law, so I just really needed to make it work. So it was a mix of both myself and my parents pushing me. But I had nothing to lose at that point. That's also helped me as well, because I was like, I'm already cut off. My parents were already upset, just really go for it. But so that was one when I like started and got my first signups. And then I would say I got like my first bit of press. I think I was on like Startup UK, where they were like entrepreneurs to watch, which was just crazy, because I didn't even like, just like a year before that, I was just in a whole different space. And then, to just, see yourself online and, things happening, that was a good feeling. And then I'd say a third one would be my first accommodation kind of deal. That really took my business from like, okay, I'm just making money, to like, okay, like this can be a lifetime thing for me. Yeah.
And tell me, when did you first feel successful? I mean, obviously, you've had a great growth trajectory, and you've had some nice highs already. When did you first really think I've made it, or have you not yet?
Yeah, to be honest, like I don't really feel like that just yet. Like I feel like I'm doing well, but I don't really feel like, okay, hey, like if I've made it, I'm successful, because like anyone who knows like starting a business or running a business, it's just this constant like like just this roller coaster. So I've never really like been like, I'm okay yet. But I think I'll feel successful, like just like I've made it, when, I'm kind of global, But then I'm also like, I have really high expectations for myself. But yeah, I've had small successes, but I couldn't say like I feel like I've made it yet.
Listen, Makaela, it's been awesome to have you here, and thanks for being the first person in our kind of earn while you learn learning experience, really.
Awesome. No, thanks for having me.
Give yourself another plug. Where can we find you on social? Where can we find the business online?
Well, so the business, it's freethefresher.co.uk, and for all the other like Twitter, Instagram, everything, it's just under Free the Fresher.
And what about yourself? Have you got an Instagram or something?
Yeah, I'm Makaela R. Makaela spelled weird. It's Makaela. Yeah, same across all socials.
Cool, fantastic. Listen, guys, as always, if you don't subscribe, please press that subscribe button down below. And for those of you not following me on anything other than YouTube, the Matt Haycox, TheMattHaycox on all the social channels. So listen, thanks for watching and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem.
Awesome, yay.